In the shadowy world of espionage and political intrigue, few events are as controversial or as impactful as the Lavon Affair. This scandal, which unfolded in the 1950s, not only strained relations between Israel and Egypt, but also led to significant political turmoil within Israel itself. Join us as we delve into the Lavon Affair's details, its origins, the conspiracy, and its lasting legacy. Lavon Affair, one of the most notorious espionage scandals in the history of Israel, took place against a backdrop of intense geopolitical tension and shifting alliances in the Middle East. To fully understand the affair and its profound, it is essential to delve into the historical context of the early 1950s, a period marked by post-World War II decolonization, the rise of nationalist movements, and the nascent stages of the Cold War. Following World War II, the Middle East was a region in flux. The decline of European colonial powers, particularly Britain and France, created a power vacuum that local and international actors sought to fill. Egypt, under the leadership of King Farouk, was in a state of political instability, characterized by widespread dissatisfaction with the monarchy and growing nationalist sentiment. The country was strategically important due to the Suez Canal, a critical maritime route linking the Mediterranean Sea with the Red Sea, and by extension, the Indian Ocean. The canal was crucial for international trade and military logistics, making Egypt a focal point of both regional and global strategic interests. In 1952, a coup d'etat led by the Free Officers Movement, a group of nationalist military officers, overthrew King Farouk. The coup was spearheaded by General Mohammed Naguib and Colonel Gamal Abdel Nasser. The new regime, initially led by Naguib, but soon dominated by Nasser, sought to modernize Egypt, reduce foreign influence, and assert its independence on the world stage. Nasser's policies aimed at nationalizing key industries and infrastructure, including the Suez Canal, which had been under British and French control since its completion in 1869. Nasser's ascent to power and his nationalist agenda posed a significant threat to Western interests in the region. The British, in particular, were concerned about losing control over the Suez Canal, a vital link to their colonies and a key asset in maintaining their global influence. The French, dealing with their own colonial troubles in North Africa, were equally wary of Nasser's influence on nationalist movements. Meanwhile, the United States, newly emerged as a global superpower, was navigating the complexities of the Cold War and sought to prevent Soviet influence from spreading in the Middle East. Israel, established in 1948 and still in its infancy as a state, found itself in a precarious position, surrounded by hostile Arab nations and struggling with the challenges of integrating a diverse population of Jewish immigrants. Israel's primary concern was security. The new state faced existential threats from its neighbors, who had not accepted its legitimacy and were opposed to its presence in the region. The 1948 Arab-Israeli War had resulted in a fragile armistice, but tensions remained high, and the possibility of renewed conflict loomed large. In this volatile environment, Israel viewed Egypt under Nasser as a particularly formidable adversary. Nasser's rhetoric and policies were aggressively anti-Israel, and his efforts to unite the Arab world under his leadership posed a direct challenge to Israel's security. The Israeli leadership, particularly Prime Minister David Ben-Gurion and Defense Minister Pinhas Lavon, were deeply concerned about the implications of Nasser's policies for Israel's future. Amidst these regional dynamics, the global context of the Cold War further complicated matters. The United States and the Soviet Union were vying for influence in the Middle East, each seeking to align regional powers with their respective ideological blocs. Nasser's Egypt, while officially non-aligned, was leaning towards the Soviet Union, which provided military and economic support. This alignment with the Soviet bloc was seen as a threat by both the Western powers and Israel, which relied on Western support for its survival and development. Against this backdrop, Israel's strategic priorities included not only defending its borders but also weakening potential adversaries and preventing them from gaining support from the superpowers. Covert operations and intelligence gathering became crucial components of this strategy. Israel's military intelligence, known as Amman, and its external intelligence agency, Mossad, were tasked with conducting operations to safeguard the nation's security interests. Operation Susanna, the covert plan that would eventually lead to the Lavon Affair, was conceived within this context. The objective was to conduct false flag operations, sabotage and bombings that would be blamed on Egyptian nationalists. By creating instability and discrediting Nasser's regime, Israel hoped to undermine Egypt's efforts to nationalize the Suez Canal and weaken its influence in the region. The plan also aimed to disrupt Egypt's relationships with Western powers, particularly the United States and Britain, by making it appear that Egypt was incapable of maintaining order and protecting Western interests. The operatives for Operation Susanna were recruited from the Jewish community in Egypt. These young men and women were trained in sabotage and covert operations, with the expectation that their actions would go unnoticed by Egyptian authorities. They were to target American and British-owned facilities in Cairo and Alexandria, including libraries, cinemas, and educational centers. The rationale was that attacks on these targets would provoke a reaction from the Western powers, leading them to question their support for Nasser and potentially intervene to protect their interests. However, the operation was fraught with risks and complexities. The recruitment of local operatives, while practical in terms of blending in, also meant that they were operating in an environment where they had personal connections and were exposed to significant dangers. The operatives' success depended on their ability to avoid detection and execute their missions flawlessly, a daunting task given the vigilance of Egyptian security forces and the political sensitivity of their targets. Despite careful planning, the operation began to unravel almost immediately. On July 2, 1954, a bomb carried by one of the operatives exploded prematurely, leading to his arrest. Under interrogation, he revealed the identities of his co-conspirators, resulting in the capture of the entire cell. The arrests and subsequent trials of the operatives exposed the operation and brought it to the attention of the international community, leading to a scandal that would have lasting repercussions for both Israel and Egypt. The Lavon Affair, named after Pinhas Lavon, the Israeli defense minister at the time, triggered a political crisis in Israel. Lavon denied any involvement in the operation, claiming that it had been authorized without his knowledge. The affair led to a bitter power struggle within the Israeli government, with Prime Minister David Ben-Gurion initially supporting Lavon, but later turning against him. The controversy highlighted deep divisions within the Israeli political establishment and raised questions about accountability and transparency in the conduct of covert operations. In Egypt, the exposure of the plot reinforced suspicions about Israeli espionage and contributed to anti-Israeli sentiments. The affair also had significant implications for Egypt's relations with the Western powers, as it underscored the fragile and contentious nature of their interests in the region. The Lavon Affair serves as a poignant reminder of the complexities and risks of covert operations in an already volatile geopolitical landscape. Operation Susanna, the covert operation at the heart of the Lavon Affair, was a highly ambitious and risky plan conceived by Israeli military intelligence in 1954. The operation aimed to destabilize Egypt and disrupt its relationships with Western powers, primarily the United States and Britain. To fully understand the intricacies of Operation Susanna, it is important to delve into the motivations behind the operation, the recruitment and training of the operatives, the specific targets chosen for sabotage, and the series of events that led to the operation's ultimate failure. The motivations behind Operation Susanna were rooted in the geopolitical dynamics of the early 1950s. Israel, newly established and facing existential threats from its Arab neighbors, was deeply concerned about the rise of Egyptian nationalism under President Gamal Abdel Nasser. Nasser's policies of nationalizing key industries, including the strategically crucial Suez Canal, and his anti-Israeli rhetoric, posed a significant threat to Israel's security. Furthermore, Egypt's growing ties with the Soviet Union heightened Israeli fears of a strengthened adversary with access to advanced military technology and economic support. In response to these perceived threats, Israeli military intelligence devised Operation Susanna as a means to undermine Nasser's regime and weaken Egypt's regional influence. The operation was based on the concept of false flag attacks, acts of sabotage that would appear to be the work of Egyptian nationalists. The goal was to create chaos and insecurity within Egypt, undermining Nasser's government and discouraging Western powers from supporting his nationalist agenda. By targeting American and British interests in Egypt, the operation aimed to provoke a backlash that would damage Egypt's international standing and potentially lead to foreign intervention. Recruiting operatives for Operation Susanna was a critical component of the plan. Israeli intelligence sought individuals who could operate covertly within Egypt without arousing suspicion. They turned to the Jewish community in Egypt, which included individuals with the linguistic and cultural knowledge necessary to blend in and carry out the sabotage missions. These recruits were young, idealistic, and willing to take great risks for what they believed was the security of the nascent state of Israel. The operatives were brought to Israel for extensive training in sabotage techniques, including the use of explosives, covert communication methods, and the handling of false documentation. This training was designed to prepare them for the highly dangerous missions they would undertake upon their return to Egypt. The operatives were instructed to carry out a series of bombings targeting American and British-owned facilities, such as libraries, cinemas, and educational centers. These targets were chosen because they were symbols of Western influence and would generate significant international attention if attacked. Despite the rigorous training and careful planning, Operation Susanna faced numerous challenges from the outset. The operatives were operating in an environment where Egyptian security forces were highly vigilant, especially given the political instability and recent coup that had brought Nasser to power. Additionally, the operatives had to navigate the complexities of living double lives, maintaining their cover while preparing for acts of sabotage that could have severe personal and political repercussions. The first signs of trouble emerged on July 2, 1954, when one of the operatives, Philip Nathanson, was carrying a bomb intended for an American-owned library in Alexandria. The bomb exploded prematurely in Nathanson's pocket, causing him severe injuries and leading to his immediate arrest by Egyptian authorities. Nathanson's arrest set off a chain of events that would unravel the entire operation. Under intense interrogation, Nathanson revealed the identities of his co-conspirators, leading to the arrest of the entire cell of operatives. The Egyptian authorities quickly launched a thorough investigation into the bombings. They uncovered a significant amount of incriminating evidence, including explosives, false documents, and covert communication devices. The arrested operatives were subjected to harsh interrogations, and several of them confessed to their involvement in the sabotage missions. The confessions and the evidence collected by the Egyptian authorities provided a clear link between the operatives and Israeli intelligence, leading to a major scandal. Operation Susanna's exposure had immediate and far-reaching consequences. The arrested operatives were put on trial in a high-profile case that attracted significant international attention. The trial, held in Cairo, was a highly charged affair, with the defendants facing severe charges, including espionage, sabotage, and terrorism. The Egyptian government sought to use the trial to discredit Israel and highlight the threat posed by its covert operations. The trial resulted in harsh sentences for the operatives. Two of them, Dr. Moshe Marzouk and Shmuel Azar, were sentenced to death and executed by hanging. Others received long prison sentences, and the affair left a deep scar on the Jewish community in Egypt, many of whom faced increased suspicion and hostility in the aftermath of the scandal. The exposure of the operation also led to a significant diplomatic fallout, straining relations between Israel and several Western powers, particularly the United States and Britain. The Lavon Affair, named after Pinchas Lavon, the Israeli defense minister at the time, sparked a major political crisis within Israel. Lavon denied any knowledge of the operation, claiming that it had been authorized without his approval. This denial set off a bitter power struggle within the Israeli government, with Prime Minister David Ben-Gurion initially supporting Lavon, but later turning against him. The affair exposed deep divisions within the Israeli political and military establishment and raised serious questions about accountability and oversight in the conduct of covert operations. The political fallout from the Lavon Affair was severe. Lavon was forced to resign as defense minister, and the scandal led to a prolonged period of political instability in Israel. Ben-Gurion's insistence on reopening the investigation and clearing his name further intensified the political turmoil. The affair ultimately led to Ben-Gurion's temporary retirement from politics, though he later returned to power. The scandal highlighted the need for greater transparency and accountability in the conduct of intelligence operations and had a lasting impact on the Israeli intelligence community. In Egypt, the Lavon Affair reinforced existing suspicions about Israeli espionage and contributed to a climate of increased tension and hostility between the two countries. The affair also had significant implications for Egypt's relations with Western powers. By exposing the extent of Israeli covert operations, the Lavon Affair underscored the fragility and complexity of the geopolitical landscape in the Middle East. Despite the immediate fallout, the Lavon Affair also led to important changes within the Israeli intelligence community. Operation Susanna's failure highlighted the need for better coordination and oversight of intelligence activities. Reforms were implemented to improve the planning and execution of covert operations, and the Israeli intelligence community underwent significant restructuring to enhance its effectiveness and accountability. The Lavon Affair's legacy is multifaceted. It is a cautionary tale about the risks and ethical dilemmas of covert operations and the potential for unintended consequences. The affair also underscores the importance of transparency and accountability in the conduct of intelligence activities and the need for rigorous oversight to prevent abuses of power. The Lavon Affair remains a significant episode in the history of Israeli intelligence and a poignant reminder of the complexities and challenges of espionage in a volatile geopolitical environment. The unraveling of Operation Susanna was a complex process marked by a series of missteps, intense interrogations, and an inevitable chain reaction of disclosures. To fully grasp the extent of the operation's failure and its profound consequences, it is crucial to delve into the details of the events that led to the exposure of the Israeli covert operation, the subsequent trials of the operatives, and the impact on the Israeli political landscape. The downfall of Operation Susanna began on July 2, 1954, in Alexandria, Egypt. One of the operatives, Philip Nathanson, was tasked with placing a bomb in an American-owned library. However, as fate would have it, the bomb detonated prematurely while still in Nathanson's pocket. The explosion did not only injure Nathanson, but also led to his immediate capture by the Egyptian authorities. This premature explosion was the first in a series of events that would lead to the unmasking of the entire operation. Nathanson's arrest was a significant blow to the operation. The Egyptian police, already on high alert due to the tense political climate, swiftly launched an investigation. Under intense interrogation, and possibly due to the severe injuries and psychological pressure, Nathanson revealed the identities of his fellow operatives. This was a critical breach, as it allowed Egyptian authorities to apprehend the other members of the cell before they could destroy evidence or escape. The subsequent arrests of the operatives, including Marcel Nino, Robert Dassa, and Victor Levy, among others, provided the Egyptian authorities with a treasure trove of evidence. The operatives were found in possession of explosives, false documentation, and various espionage paraphernalia. These discoveries substantiated Nathanson's confessions and confirmed the existence of an extensive sabotage network. The Egyptian authorities meticulously pieced together the evidence, revealing the scope and objectives of Operation Susanna. The arrested operatives were charged with espionage, sabotage, and terrorism, and their trial became a high-profile event that attracted international attention. the Egyptian government was determined to use the trial to expose and condemn the Israeli operation, leveraging the incident to bolster its standing both domestically and internationally. The trial, held in Cairo, was a dramatic affair. The defendants faced severe charges and the prospect of harsh penalties. The Egyptian prosecution presented a compelling case, supported by the confessions of the operatives and the substantial physical evidence collected during the arrests. The operatives' confessions detailed their recruitment, training in Israel, and the specific instructions they had received to carry out bombings targeting American and British interests in Egypt. The defense struggled to counter the overwhelming evidence. The operatives, under the pressure of the trial and facing the dire consequences of their actions, maintained that they were acting out of loyalty to Israel and in response to perceived threats from Egypt. Despite these justifications, the Egyptian court found the operatives guilty of all charges. Two of the operatives, Dr. Moshe Marzouk and Shmuel Azar, were sentenced to death and subsequently executed by hanging. Others received long prison sentences, marking the end of their clandestine activities and highlighting the severe repercussions of their failed mission. The exposure and trial of the operatives had immediate and far-reaching consequences. For Israel, the Lavon Affair represented a significant intelligence failure and a political debacle. The scandal, named after Pinhas Lavon, the Israeli defense minister at the time, sparked a major political crisis. Lavon denied any involvement in the operation, claiming that it had been authorized without his knowledge or approval. This denial set off a bitter power struggle within the Israeli government, with serious ramifications for the country's political stability. The Israeli political landscape was deeply affected by the Lavon Affair. Prime Minister David Ben-Gurion, who initially supported Lavon, eventually turned against him. The affair highlighted deep divisions within the Israeli political and military establishments, raising serious questions about accountability and oversight in the conduct of covert operations. The political infighting that ensued led to Lavon's resignation as defense minister, but the scandal did not end there. Ben-Gurion, determined to clear his name and those of his close associates, insisted on reopening the investigation into the affair. This insistence on re-examining the case further polarized the Israeli political scene and extended the period of instability. Ben-Gurion's actions were driven by a combination of personal conviction and political strategy, as he sought to reaffirm his leadership and restore public trust in his administration. The prolonged controversy surrounding the Lavon Affair ultimately led to Ben-Gurion's temporary retirement from politics. However, he later returned to power, highlighting the resilience and complexity of his political career. The affair underscored the need for greater transparency and accountability in the conduct of intelligence operations and prompted significant reforms within the Israeli intelligence community. The exposure of Operation Susanna and the subsequent political fallout had a profound impact on Israeli society. The affair highlighted the ethical and strategic dilemmas associated with covert operations and the potential for unintended consequences. It also underscored the importance of rigorous oversight and accountability in the conduct of intelligence activities, lessons that would shape the future of Israeli intelligence operations. In Egypt, the Lavon Affair reinforced existing suspicions about Israeli espionage and contributed to a climate of increased tension and hostility between the two countries. The affair provided the Egyptian government with a propaganda victory, allowing it to portray Israel as an aggressor engaged in underhanded tactics to destabilize its neighbors. This narrative was used to justify further crackdowns on suspected espionage activities and to bolster domestic support for Nasser's regime. The international implications of the Lavon Affair were also significant. The exposure of the Israeli operation strained Israel's relations with several Western powers, particularly the United States and Britain. The incident underscored the fragility and complexity of the geopolitical landscape in the Middle East and highlighted the risks associated with covert operations in such a volatile environment. Despite the immediate fallout, the Lavon Affair also led to important changes within the Israeli intelligence community. The failure of Operation Susanna highlighted the need for better coordination and oversight of intelligence activities. Reforms were implemented to improve the planning and execution of covert operations, and the Israeli intelligence community underwent significant restructuring to enhance its effectiveness and accountability. The legacy of the Lavon Affair is multifaceted. It serves as a cautionary tale about the risks and ethical dilemmas of covert operations and the potential for unintended consequences. The affair also underscores the importance of transparency and accountability in the conduct of intelligence activities and the need for rigorous oversight to prevent abuses of power. The Lavon Affair remains a significant episode in the history of Israeli intelligence and a poignant reminder of the complexities and challenges of espionage in a volatile geopolitical environment. In conclusion, the unraveling of Operation Susanna was a complex and multifaceted process that had profound implications for both Israel and Egypt. The premature explosion, the subsequent arrests and confessions, and the high-profile trial all contributed to the exposure of the covert operation and the ensuing political crisis. The affair highlighted the ethical and strategic dilemmas associated with covert operations and underscored the importance of transparency, accountability, and rigorous oversight in the conduct of intelligence activities. The Lavon Affair remains a significant and cautionary episode in the history of espionage and intelligence, offering valuable lessons for the future. The political fallout from the Lavon Affair within Israel was profound and multifaceted, leading to a significant crisis in the Israeli government. The exposure of Operation Susanna not only revealed serious lapses in judgment and execution, but also triggered a bitter power struggle that would reshape the Israeli political landscape. This chapter delves into the intricate details of the political aftermath, examining the key players involved, the internal conflicts, and the long-term implications for Israeli governance and military oversight. The immediate political fallout from the Lavon Affair centered around Pinhas Lavon, who was serving as Israel's defense minister at the time of the operation. Lavon found himself at the heart of the scandal, accused of authorizing the failed covert operation. Lavon vehemently denied any involvement, insisting that the operation had been carried out without his knowledge or approval. This denial set the stage for a protracted and acrimonious political battle. Prime Minister David Ben-Gurion, a towering figure in Israeli politics and a founding father of the state, initially supported Lavon. Ben-Gurion's backing was crucial, as his influence and political clout provided Lavon with a degree of protection. However, as the scandal unfolded and the extent of the intelligence failure became apparent, Ben-Gurion began to distance himself from Lavon. The affair had exposed deep flaws in the conduct and oversight of Israel's intelligence operations, prompting Ben-Gurion to reconsider his support. The political infighting that ensued was intense and deeply personal. Ben-Gurion, known for his autocratic style and unwavering commitment to Israel's security, viewed the Lavon Affair as a direct threat to his authority and the integrity of the government. He believed that a thorough investigation was necessary to uncover the truth and restore public confidence. Lavon, on the other hand, saw the investigation as a politically motivated witch hunt designed to scapegoat him for the failures of others. The controversy reached a critical point when Lavon was forced to resign as defense minister in 1955. His resignation, however, did not bring an end to the scandal. Instead, it marked the beginning of a protracted struggle for control and influence within the Israeli political and military establishments. Ben-Gurion's determination to clear his name and those of his close associates led to a series of investigations and inquiries, each more contentious than the last. One of the central figures in the unfolding drama was Shimon Peres, who served as Director General of the Ministry of Defense and was closely aligned with Ben-Gurion. Peres, a rising star in Israeli politics and a protege of Ben-Gurion, played a significant role in the initial execution of Operation Susanna. His involvement in the affair and his subsequent efforts to manage the fallout made him a key player in the political struggle that followed. Peres' position was complicated by his loyalty to Ben-Gurion and his own political ambitions. He worked diligently to support Ben-Gurion's efforts to reopen the investigation and clear their names, but this alignment also made him a target for those seeking to protect Lavon. The struggle between the factions supporting Lavon and those backing Ben-Gurion and Peres became a defining feature of Israeli politics during this period. The controversy surrounding the Lavon Affair also had significant implications for the Israeli intelligence community. The affair highlighted the need for greater oversight and accountability in the conduct of covert operations. The failure of Operation Susanna and the subsequent political fallout underscored the risks associated with poorly planned and executed intelligence activities. In response, the Israeli government implemented a series of reforms aimed at improving the coordination and supervision of intelligence operations. One of the key reforms was the establishment of clearer lines of authority and responsibility within the intelligence community. The affair had exposed a lack of coordination between different branches of the military and intelligence agencies, leading to confusion and mismanagement. The reforms sought to address these issues by streamlining the command structure and enhancing communication and collaboration among various intelligence entities. The Lavon Affair also led to a re-evaluation of the role and oversight of the Defense Ministry. The scandal revealed serious lapses in the ministry's oversight of intelligence operations, prompting calls for greater transparency and accountability. The reforms aimed to strengthen the ministry's supervisory role and ensure that covert operations were subject to rigorous scrutiny and approval processes. Despite these efforts, the political turmoil stemming from the Lavon Affair continued to reverberate through Israeli politics. Ben-Gurion's insistence on reopening the investigation and his determination to hold those responsible accountable led to further divisions within the government. The controversy ultimately contributed to Ben-Gurion's temporary retirement from politics in 1954. However, his influence and political acumen ensured that he remained a dominant figure, and he returned to power in 1955, continuing to shape Israeli politics for years to come. The long-term implications of the Lavon Affair for Israeli governance and military oversight were significant. The affair underscored the importance of clear and accountable decision-making processes within the government and the military. It highlighted the risks associated with covert operations and the need for rigorous oversight to prevent abuses of power and ensure that such operations were conducted in a manner consistent with national security interests and ethical standards. The Lavon Affair also had a lasting impact on the careers of many key political figures. For Ben-Gurion, the affair was a blemish on his otherwise illustrious career, but it did not diminish his legacy as one of Israel's founding fathers and a pivotal figure in its early history. For Lavon, the affair marked the end of his political career, and he remained a controversial and divisive figure in Israeli politics. Shimon Peres, despite his involvement in the affair, managed to navigate the political turmoil and went on to have a distinguished career, eventually serving as Prime Minister and President of Israel. His ability to survive the fallout from the Lavon Affair and continue to rise in Israeli politics is a testament to his political skills and the complex nature of Israeli political dynamics. In conclusion, the political fallout from the Lavon Affair within Israel was profound and far-reaching. The exposure of Operation Susanna triggered a major political crisis, leading to intense infighting, resignations, and a protracted struggle for control and influence within the Israeli government. The affair highlighted the need for greater oversight and accountability in the conduct of intelligence operations and prompted significant reforms within the Israeli intelligence community. The legacy of the Lavon Affair continues to shape Israeli politics and intelligence operations, serving as a cautionary tale about the risks and ethical dilemmas of covert activities. The long-term implications and legacy of the Lavon Affair extend far beyond the immediate political fallout and the individuals directly involved. This scandal had a profound impact on Israeli-Egyptian relations, the structure and oversight of Israeli intelligence operations, and the broader geopolitical dynamics of the Middle East. To fully understand its lasting legacy, it is essential to explore how the Lavon Affair influenced regional politics, shaped public perceptions, and led to significant changes in both Israeli and Egyptian policies. The Lavon Affair's exposure had a deep and immediate impact on Israeli-Egyptian relations. In the aftermath of the failed operation, Egypt capitalized on the scandal to bolster its domestic and international standing. President Gamal Abdel Nasser used the affair to strengthen his position within Egypt, portraying himself as a leader who had successfully uncovered and thwarted an Israeli espionage plot. This narrative helped Nasser consolidate power and garner greater support from the Egyptian populace. Internationally, the Lavon Affair reinforced Egypt's narrative of Israel as an aggressor, engaging in covert operations to destabilize its neighbors. The scandal provided Nasser with a propaganda victory, allowing him to present Egypt as a victim of Israeli sabotage. This narrative resonated with many Arab nations and contributed to a further hardening of attitudes against Israel within the region. The incident intensified the already high levels of distrust and animosity between Israel and its Arab neighbors, setting the stage for future conflicts. The affair also had significant diplomatic repercussions. The exposure of an Israeli operation targeting American and British facilities in Egypt strained Israel's relationships with these Western powers. The United States and Britain, both of whom were trying to navigate their own complex relationships with Egypt and the broader Middle East, were displeased by the revelations of Israeli sabotage. This strain on diplomatic relations was particularly troubling for Israel, which relied heavily on support from Western nations for its security and development. In Israel, the Lavon Affair prompted a thorough re-examination of intelligence operations and the mechanisms of oversight and accountability. The failure of Operation Susanna highlighted serious flaws in the planning, execution, and supervision of covert actions. In response, the Israeli government implemented a series of reforms aimed at strengthening the structure and oversight of its intelligence community. One of the key outcomes was the establishment of clearer lines of authority and responsibility within the intelligence agencies. The affair had exposed a lack of coordination between different branches of the military and intelligence services, leading to confusion and mismanagement. To address this issue, the Israeli government restructured its intelligence community to ensure better communication and collaboration among various entities. This restructuring aimed to streamline the command structure and enhance the effectiveness of intelligence operations. The Lavon Affair also underscored the need for rigorous oversight of intelligence activities. The Israeli government recognized that the absence of adequate checks and balances had contributed to the failure of Operation Susanna. As a result, new protocols were introduced to ensure that covert operations were subject to thorough review and approval processes. These protocols included stricter criteria for authorizing covert missions, enhanced scrutiny of operational plans, and more robust mechanisms for monitoring the execution of operations. Another significant reform was the increased emphasis on accountability within the intelligence community. The scandal had revealed the dangers of a lack of accountability, with operatives and officials involved in the operation evading responsibility for the failure. To prevent similar issues in the future, the Israeli government established clearer accountability structures, ensuring that individuals responsible for planning and executing covert operations could be held accountable for their actions. This focus on accountability was intended to foster a culture of responsibility and integrity within the intelligence services. The Lavon Affair also had long-term implications for Israeli domestic politics. The scandal exposed deep divisions within the Israeli political establishment and led to a protracted struggle for control and influence. The affair highlighted the importance of transparency and accountability in governance, prompting calls for greater openness in government decision-making processes. These demands for transparency and accountability had a lasting impact on Israeli political culture, shaping the way future governments approached issues of national security and intelligence operations. The Lavon Affair significantly affected the careers of key political figures. For David Ben-Gurion, the affair was a major setback that temporarily derailed his political career. However, his determination to clear his name and his eventual return to power demonstrated his resilience and the complexity of his leadership. Ben-Gurion's insistence on reopening the investigation and holding those responsible accountable left a lasting legacy, underscoring the importance of integrity and accountability in leadership. Pinus Lavon, on the other hand, saw his political career effectively end as a result of the scandal. Despite his denials of involvement, Lavon was unable to escape the shadow of the affair, and his resignation marked the end of his influence in Israeli politics. Lavon's downfall served as a cautionary tale about the potential consequences of intelligence failures and the importance of maintaining oversight and accountability. Shimon Peres, despite his involvement in the affair, managed to navigate the political fallout and continue his ascent in Israeli politics. Peres' ability to survive the scandal and go on to hold significant political positions, including Prime Minister and President of Israel, is a testament to his political acumen and the complex nature of Israeli political dynamics. His career trajectory highlights the resilience and adaptability required to thrive in the challenging landscape of Israeli politics. In Egypt, the Lavon Affair reinforced existing suspicions about Israeli espionage and contributed to a climate of increased vigilance and hostility. The scandal provided the Egyptian government with a justification for cracking down on suspected espionage activities and tightening security measures. This heightened vigilance had a lasting impact on Egypt's approach to national security and its relations with Israel. The affair also had broader geopolitical implications. The exposure of the Israeli operation highlighted the complexities and risks of covert actions in a volatile region like the Middle East. The Lavon Affair underscored the potential for unintended consequences and the dangers of intelligence failures, lessons that would resonate with intelligence agencies and policymakers around the world. The incident contributed to a growing recognition of the need for careful planning, rigorous oversight, and accountability in the conduct of intelligence operations. In conclusion, the long-term implications and legacy of the Lavon Affair are profound and multifaceted. The scandal had a significant impact on Israeli-Egyptian relations, shaping the dynamics of their interactions for years to come. It prompted substantial reforms within the Israeli intelligence community, emphasizing the importance of oversight, accountability, and coordination. The affair also left a lasting mark on Israeli domestic politics, highlighting the need for transparency and integrity in governance. The Lavon Affair remains a significant and cautionary episode in the history of espionage and intelligence, offering valuable lessons for the future. The Lavon Affair remains one of the most intriguing and controversial episodes in the history of Middle Eastern espionage. Its legacy continues to shape Israel and Egypt's political and intelligence landscapes. As we reflect on this event, we are reminded of the enduring impact of covert operations and the ever-present need for vigilance and ethical considerations in pursuing national security. Thank you for joining us on this journey into the Lavon Affair. If you found this story compelling, please like, subscribe, and share your thoughts in the comments below. Stay tuned for more in-depth explorations of history's most fascinating events.